Kimakona ngwao, bana bangwao, ipila.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Discovering the Future of Africa. This is where we go beyond our borders, where we go in the borderless Africa, from Algeria to Zimbabwe. There is a lot of talent in business, civic engagement, public service, everywhere. And we are not only talking about the Mandela Washington Fellowship, but we are talking about even the sharing scholarship. We're talking about the Fulbright. We're talking about the community solutions, all fellowships, all scholarships, which we think can help the young people of Africa. Those are the things we are mostly interested to talk about on this show. If you see, as you can see, sometimes we are bringing you experiences we had. Sometimes we bring people to talk about their experiences, but mostly we also need these one-on-one sessions where we give tip-offs to each other. This is very important. So today I promised you, as I promised you last time, that we are going to have the part 2 of the Mandela Washington Fellowship application 2024. Is still open, and I believe that from our first party, we have tested your application, you've jotted some notes offline, and you are doing well, and you are waiting for this episode saying, "Oh, Calvin, come back. I'm facing some difficulties. I can't have the nitty-gritties of what can I put on this section of my application." That's why we've brought in this another episode, which is part 2 of that application process, which is also the final of that application process. We've got many things to share with you, but for the application process of the Mandela Washington Fellowship 2024, this will be the last one. And I believe that the part 1 and this part 2 is a full package which you need for this application process. But before we start, remember to subscribe and turn on the notification button so that you don't miss our next episodes and exciting shows. You don't miss the leaders across Africa who will be coming on this show, and also the experiences in the United States and in other African countries. So share, subscribe, and remember to comment. We need your comments. They tell us, they inform us, they inform our discussion. So be ready. Get started now. So the selection criteria, there are simple questions which have been provided by the Mandela Washington Fellowship team. So I'll go through the question. One of them is a proven record of leadership and accomplishment in business or entrepreneurship, civic engagement, or public government service. So we've talked of business or entrepreneurship. We've talked of civic engagement and also public or government service. So maybe someone who was contemplating on apply can say, "I'm a civil servant. Can I apply?" Yes, you can apply. So mostly the questions are on the proven record of leadership and accomplishment in these 4 categories I've just mentioned. Is to explain a time when you have been innovative within your present company or organization. How innovative have you been during the time you have been in the organization or the company you are working with or you are working for. But mind you, it's not only that sometimes you are at the helm of the company or the organization. Sometimes you are within. We've just mentioned of the public or government service. Sometimes you are an employee there. But there's something great, creative, innovative, and leadership role you are exhibiting there. This fellowship is for you. So now, tell us when you have been innovative. Want to hear about it. Of course, in the application. How have you influenced other people to work with you to create change? Change, I remember one of my friends was saying, change is coming. Yes, change is here. So basically what we are talking about is how have you influenced change? If you ask me that question, I tell you, not only like in my country, like in the district where my organization is based, but across Zimbabwe, I'm influencing how media perceive children. That the change, right? Yeah, I think that is the way I'm influencing people, the journalists, the media house, the stakeholders, which include children themselves. They said we were voiceless. Oh, we can have a voice. Okay, let's try. Let's go for that platform. So, influencing. This influence now will inform even the policies by international players, by local parliament, even by our government. Who knows? So, you're a business leader, you're an entrepreneur, you are any of this in any of these fields. What change are you making? The influence. Do you have a time where you have influenced someone and there was that change? Be it in climate change policy making, be it in wildlife conservation. Let's talk of the medical field, the health systems. Are you helping marginalized communities? Maybe you are bringing clinics closer to them. It can be a mobile health clinic. It can be a mobile legal clinic because you are a lawyer. You are representing the marginalized people who cannot afford to pay. You are making change. What do you find most valuable or motivating about working in your company or organization? What compels you to work there? What compels you to work there? This is like a simple question, but we need something. Can you make it in a sentence? If you can make it in a sentence, and the application maybe ask you for a paragraph, you can expand. What motivates you? What makes you to be where you are seated right now? I'm seated right here in this show because I'm motivated to see you applying for this fellowship and becoming one of the Mandela Washington Fellows. That is what motivates me, to see young people who are doing great things in different disciplines, recognized, connecting, networking, and making it in life. That motivates you. What about you, where you are seated right now? Okay, let's go ahead. Tell us about how you began working in your sector. You know how you began. So these are some of the things, the simple questions you must expect. What drew you to the field? What keeps you there? What are some traits that you admire in other leaders? You have role models, you have role models in different fields. What do you admire about those people? I know last time I talked about poets becoming fellows because your poetry is making change. Your poetry has that impact, all those things. So, like my hobby, like my talents, beside all these things, I'm also a poet, But if you are going to ask me about my role model in poetry, I tell you that it is William Wordsworth. But why William Wordsworth? Go and find out. Check about his poems. How they were so informative, revolutionizing the English community of the 14th, 15th, 16th century up to this date. Those poems, they're like lives. I know that maybe like Shakespeare, of course, but as for me, it's William Wordsworth. So these are like role models. I've just decided to give an example of poets because Maybe poets will say, oh, Calvin, today we didn't mention about us. Did we hear correctly that even poets can apply for this? Yes, you heard me. Poets can apply for this one. Who is your role model? What change are you making? Yes. So, what are some traits that you admire in other leaders? There are various leaders within your community. What do you admire? The traits. And what are the traits of leadership? So these are the things you must know. Things like commitment to the cause. You know, there are people who are committed. Let's talk about politics, maybe. You know, we've seen young people like young Asen Matete from Zimbabwe. He has gone through a lot, but determination, commitment, integrity, honest. Yeah, I know. But you know, the guy is honest when he speaks on personal level, professional level. One thing I've noticed about young Asen is he's honest. So maybe you are into politics. This is an example I'm just giving. The traits you can admire in someone. Okay. What have you learned from others in life, work, or from historical leaders? We've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Abraham Lincoln. So, yeah. Want to say Nelson Mandela? George Washington? Of course. Many other leaders, even historical leaders. So these were the questions about a proven record of leadership and accomplishment in business or entrepreneurship, civic engagement, public or government service. Let's go to the next. A demonstrated commitment to public or community service, volunteerism or mentorship. I'm mentoring many people right now, and you who is watching, you are one of the people I'm mentoring about this application. Huh? Volunteerism. I'm volunteering my time. I was volunteering at Todd Martin in East Lansing, Michigan, in the United States. I volunteered in many organizations in my country. So identify a project that you would like to do when you return home that would provide mentoring opportunities to residents of your community. You are not residents of my community, guys. Yeah. You see, I'm mentoring you, but you're not resident. I've got my own mentoring project I'll do when I go back home. So I just want you to be mindful of this as you go through your application, that you must identify a project that you'd like to do when you return home that will provide mentoring. Also, what experience do you have mentoring others in your community or organization? So you've told us what you are going to do in terms of monitoring back to your residents of the community, but also right now, what the experience do you have, like people you have mentored, be it in the community or in the organization, something like that. What role does mentoring play in the overall development of capacity building and leadership development? So you must first understand what is capacity building and what is leadership development. When you understand these two phrases, you will now be able to answer this one on how mentoring played overall development of capacity building and leadership development. Then, what causes have you volunteered with or for in the past? What did you work to raise? How did you work to raise awareness for those causes? So myself as a journalist, I have worked in the causes of children's journalism, children's rights. I've also worked in the causes of investigative journalism, transparency and accountability. I have also worked in the causes to do with uplifting the marginalized communities, indigenous groups within my country. So to combine all these things, the best platform I can have it is through media. then the representation of all these things I've been talking about. If you are going to see like my Ignite talk, you understand much about children's journalism and how do I connect it with my past, present, and future. But also, I'm going to do a video one day which I'm going to explain how do all these things come on board and come to be one. So watch out for that, for those ones. So, but now, how did you also raise awareness for those causes? For me, when I was doing all these things about children's rights, ABCD, I was the communications officer, like specialist in communication, manning the communication desk, because I wanted to combine, be true, and to make noise about it, so that I get the attention of people. Sometimes I can be sitting like this, I can explain, I can present, you can hear me, that's okay. But there are some causes which need some little bit of noise. Right, give an example of a time when you have worked cooperatively in a diverse group. You've worked with many people in terms of gender, in terms of disability, in terms of religion. How was your mix up with all those people? Give an example of a time your opinion was challenged. How did you respond to others' opposing viewpoints? Did you, like in a rage, like to say, what? This is correct, I'm correct. If you can't accept my point, then I'm walking out from this meeting. Yeah? Was that like how you handle it? So here is a very simple assignment. They just need like an example of when your opinion was challenged, and how did you react? How did you respond to others opposing your viewpoints? Be honest. Describe how have you ever had a professional disagreement? We have a lot of disagreements, even in soccer pitches, even in our families, even in the public transport. We have good, but we are talking about a professional disagreement. So another question can be on, not can be, no, not can be, will be a demonstrated ability to work cooperatively in diverse group and to respect the opinion of others. So we are continuing. Describe how you handled the disagreements. Were you able to resolve the disagreement? Interesting. Interesting. Describe a personal or professional challenge that you have faced. Personal, professional challenge that you have faced. How do your colleagues or supervisors describe you? Maybe if I'm your supervisor, I can describe you as lazy. Whoop. Oops. I don't think your supervisor can describe you as lazy, as not punctual. I don't know, but you know better than me. How do your supervisor describe you? Okay. So, what is your philosophical perspective on getting along with others? What would you say is key to building harmonious interpersonal relationships? Let me take this again. The last part. How would you say is key to building harmonious interpersonal relationships? So these are things you already have. You have experienced interpersonal relationships, but how harmonious were they? And how do you think? What is the key in building such harmonious interpersonal relationships? Yes. What are some of the challenges your community, organization, industry, or country is currently experiencing What do you see as key barriers to resolving this challenge? If I'm from Niger, if I'm from Zimbabwe, if I'm from Gabon, and I'm into political space, or I've got a lot of things, challenges which my communities are facing right now. Talk of contested elections, talk of political unrest. Wow. Talk of human rights abuses. Talk of many things. You know? Of course, I'm not a politician, but these are just the tips. Okay, so back to business. So, what are the challenges your community is facing? Your community, the area you are servicing, the area your business or your organization is providing services for. What are the challenges they are facing? Is it water challenges? And as a hydrologist, what are you doing about it? Right? Is it climate change crisis? Is it hunger? Is it high school dropout of high rate of school dropouts in girls? What are the challenges the community is facing? Your community. My community, when I applied for this fellowship, was about youth desert, voiceless, no platform for the marginalized communities. And that is the thing I was providing. Okay. I've got a few minutes left. Let me run this. Oh, yes, the organization. What are the challenges your organization is facing? So you've described the challenges your community is facing. We want now to know about your organization. Number two. Number three, the industry. So to me, for example, the community is Wange district, the organization is the Visana Mail, the industry is the media industry, and lastly, the country is Zimbabwe. Community, organization, industry, country. What do you see as key barriers to resolving this challenge? Yes. What are the key challenges? It will be barriers to resolving this challenge. You know better. Because this is different from one country to another, from one African country to another. What are your professional goals? Last time I talked about professional goals. So for this one and for the sake, in the interest of time, I refer you back to the part one about professional goals. How will the Mandela Washington Fellowship help you to meet those professional goals? I told you about the being connected, the network. I told you about many of these things in part one. This question is fully answered in part one. Next one is if you could accomplish one professional goal while in the United States, what will it be? Oh, you are here in the United States where I'm seated right now. Right. Tell us, if you could accomplish one professional goal while in the United States, what will it be? I've accomplished mine, not only one, but about 3 of them. But I'll tell you, not now. But according to your professional goals, you are going to cite after maybe revisit the part one. At least one. They need one, not none. Okay. If you could accomplish, we've already done it. Identify 3 or 4 things you would like to learn while in the United States that would contribute to your success when you return home. What you would like to learn. Myself, I wanted to learn the aspect of leadership as an institute. It's one of those things I wanted to learn, leadership as an institute. And I learned it about volunteerism, and also how I can replicate it back home. I did learn about it. Yes, I learned about it. Or the other thing I wanted to learn in the United States was about grant writing skills. Yes. And I found that it was very helpful to me. But something which is very practical. You can't miss. You can't miss. Through focus coaching in your project, you can't miss this one. It's very important. Okay, let's go to the last one. A demonstrated commitment to return to sub-Saharan Africa and contribute skills and talents to build and serve their community. I told you about the J1 visa and I said you must go back home after finish the fellowship. Also, 2 years home working on what you've learned from this side, implementing the skills, implementing all these things back home in sub-Saharan Africa, from Algeria to Zimbabwe, sub-Saharan Africa. So after completing the fellowship, how do you plan to use the knowledge you gain in the United States in your current capacity? You have to answer this one. 2, describe the steps you would take to address the challenges you have indicated for your community, organization, industry, and your country. You have told us about those 4 areas, which is your community, your organization, your industry, and your country. After completion of this fellowship, how do you use what you've learned, the skills and all these things, to resolve those challenges? Number 3, what role would you play as a leader to implement strategies needed to overcome the stated challenges? And lastly, what do you appreciate about your country? What can your country community teach the United States? It is very important. We've seen people coming here in the United States, what they are able to say only when they mix up with the Americans is just like you say, oh my country, poor country, poor country, poor country. We have no electricity, we have no water, we have potholes, we have this. People are poor. You are always singing that song of poverty and poverty and poverty. But just a minute. And you try to be honest with yourself. We know there are poor communities. We know all that there are many challenges in Africa. But here, the question is very simple. What do you appreciate about your country? What can your country or community teach the United States? Wow! With this, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this episode, and I believe it is helpful and it's going to be helpful to many of you who are applying. We always try to do a maximum of 25 minutes, but we've exceeded so that we might wrap it up with all what we think is important have been shared. So I think I've done my best in regards to the application process of the Mandela Washington Fellowship. And with part 1 and part 2, you are going to find it very helpful and very handy during this process. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I wish you the best and may God bless you richly. Remember to subscribe, share, and comment. For now, it's bye-bye.